Hello, everybody. So today I just want to do a few updates. Tesla dropped quite a bit since my last video on Tesla, and actually the stock now over a 3-year period is down 35% over a 3-year period. And of course, I think it's a steal at $182. I think it's pretty much a steal. The performance over the past 3 years has been 0.65x in 3 years. But of course, the revenue is at about a 3.5 times in 3 years. So revenue is growing 3.5 times in 3 years, but the stock is decreasing over the same 3-year period by 35%. And actually, so Tesla, of course, just keeps getting cheaper on a price to sales basis. And actually, for the sake of consistency, yes, Q3 only increased. Q4 only increased by about 3% compared to the Q4 of last year. But if you take a closer look, Q4 over Q3 actually increased 7.8% quarter over quarter, and so that's a 35% instant growth rate. And the question is the drop in sales, that slowdown in sales. Do we think it was temporary, or do we think it was over the long run? Do we think it's something that's going to last a while? In my view, that drop in sales is mostly temporary, because interest rates are inevitably going to come down, and thus a lot of people are going to be buying cars again. It's a purchase that you can't delay forever. I think it's temporary, but we also have, of course, the next gen vehicle that is coming, and Tesla clearly highlighted that they're transitioning towards their next phase of growth, which will come in the form of the next gen vehicle, likely called the Model 2. What's most important for me is the very long-term target that was set 2.5 years ago now by Elon Musk. That target was 20 million vehicles in 2030. That was the target that was set, which corresponded back then at a 50% volume CAGR between now and 2030. And somebody asked the question, the investors, the retail investors voted that question in, and they asked, can we still anticipate that 50% CAGR over the long term to be valid? And they've just reiterated what we've always said, which is there will be years where it's growing at a lower rate, and other years where it's growing at a faster rate. And clearly 2024 will be a year where the sales will grow at a lower rate. But when they introduce the next gen vehicle, which Elon has stated is second half of 2025, we'll see if it's 2026. It doesn't really matter. As soon as they introduce that new vehicle, the capacity of that new vehicle could be as high as 5 million cars. That would be the installed capacity. That could be as high as 5 million cars that you would add on top of the 2 million car run rate that they already produce. And that run rate, in my view, will inevitably increase. Many prominent Tesla analysts in our retail space were, predicting 2.5 million this year, or 2.5 million sales. Why not? I really don't know how much it's gonna do. I know that for Tesla, it's a stock that you can't care about this year. In my view, you have to care about Tesla over a very long run. The question of investing in Tesla is: are electric vehicles gonna be the next thing? Are electric vehicles going to be the main product going forward? And I fundamentally believe electric vehicles are going to be the main product going forward. And if that's the case, will Tesla be able to have a significant market share in there? And in my view, obviously Tesla will be able to have a significant market share. As Elon said on the call, there's about 100 million cars each year that are sold, that are up for grabs. And if all of those cars in 2030, not 2030, they won't all be electric by then, but if the majority of those cars that are sold each year are electric, how much of that share is going to be Tesla? Well, my guess is Tesla is going to be the number one player, is my guess. Now, whether that's going to be 20%, 25%, who knows? But my guess is that it's going to be the larger player. By the way, analysts very unhappy on the call, the media cycle, the news cycle, talking about how awful these earnings were. And if you look at the revenue growth, actually, that they've updated these analysts, this is from Seeking Alpha, they are now predicting 21% revenue growth. So that's a significant decline from what they had prior. Prior they were in the mid 30%. So they keep adjusting this down over the short term. But keep in mind that's just next 12 months. Next 12 months should not matter as much. And in my view, it's a good time to accumulate. And when I look at the numbers, it's funny. If I plug in the numbers that analysts are putting out, which is the gross margin at 18% and the revenue growth at 21%, I am getting Tesla, the stock, being as expensive as Nvidia. Actually, Tesla is significantly cheaper than Nvidia if you look at it for traditional metrics, but it is about the same price as Nvidia if you look at it through my metric of enterprise value of gross profit over revenue growth. So expensive. But if you use the long-term targets, which 26% is what I've historically used, that's what I think the gross margin is going to be longer term, and 50% is what Elon has stated. If you use those more long-term targets, you can see the stock is right in the middle of my distribution, right? It's not that expensive, not that cheap, is right in the middle. So it all depends your assumptions. It all depends what you use. I personally trust the 50% target that Elon has set out for Tesla. I trust that. Gross margin, in my view, will jump back. If you look at the gross margin, for example, think about the IRA benefit. As they manufacture more 4680 battery cells, as they manufacture more cells in the US, that may mean up to $2,000 per car direct pay from the US government in subsidies. So that's going to help the cost, and they keep reducing the cost, reducing the number of parts, reducing the cost of goods sold quarter after quarter. And how high are the margins going to be as soon as the prices pick back up, as they inevitably will, because interest rates will go down. At least that's my point of view. The strategy of Tesla is not to make much money today. That is not their strategy. Their strategy is to flood the market with Tesla. Some say it's a risky strategy. You're flooding the market with Tesla. You're denying all of your competition to sell their cars because your cars are much cheaper. And the hope, of course, is when you quote unquote flood the market with Tesla, your hope is that whenever FSD is unlocked, whenever FSD becomes a thing, people get a subscription, pay $300 a month to get FSD on their car and not have to drive their car again. So that's one of the aspects. So anyways, I have received some funds from my recent house that I sold, as I've outlined in a prior video. So that's kind of why I've been so busy lately. So I'll keep deploying those funds over the next few weeks. And, at these prices, to me, Tesla is going to be a clear candidate, along with Bitcoin, along with Enphase, along with so many other companies right now, which are still cheap. It's kind of crazy in my view. But anyways, it's a spring coiled. At some point, these growth assets, in my view, they will re-rate as they have always re-rated in general. If you look at the past 15 years, these assets re-rate. The market comes to its senses over the long run. We are at the tail end of this bearish sentiment that has been going on since 2021, late 2021, November 2021 is when this very bearish sentiment started. And we're still, in my view, a little bit in that bearish sentiment, but we will emerge as interest rates get dropped and as these companies keep innovating. That's my view. Anyways, moving on to HIMS. HIMS released a new video, the engine behind the HIMS experience. Highly recommend looking at it. What's very interesting in this video, heavily commented on Twitter, of course, is that they're showing their electronic medical record. And you get a sense that HIMS, through this update and through them showing up this update, is clearly focusing on health outcomes and not on insurance consideration. And when you see the chief operation officer presenting this video, what she says is that the back end for a company like HIMS is different from other players in their industry because it's almost entirely dedicated on billing and insurance in other industries, and HIMS doesn't focus on that. HIMS focuses on clinical outcomes first and foremost. I highly recommend watching this video. What this video is doing is showing how AI is used to increase the outcomes, the level of good outcomes, and to increase the speed at which providers can make accurate prescriptions by looking at things like drug interaction, by using recommender systems to recommend treatment to providers who are in charge and responsible for prescribing these to potential patients. And that's a major change because HIMSS not only is moving away from this insurance consideration and just focusing on billing, that's point number one, but they're also preparing for the inevitable, which is, AI enhanced and at some point, at one day, I believe AI-driven prescriptions with very minimal intervention from doctors. And I believe this will eventually happen, and HIMSS is setting up its system for that world. HIMSS back above $9, by the way. The cheapness of the stock over the past few weeks didn't last too long. I still think it's a very cheap stock at $9, still the cheapest stock in my universe, and I'm very happy to buy HIMSS. The last stock that I wanted to cover today is PayPal. You may know that in my must do something portfolio, I have a very tiny position in PayPal. Not even close to what HIMSS is, like very, very tiny. But anyways, I bought PayPal a few weeks back because I was hopeful about their buy now pay later programs, as well as their cryptocurrency offering and their stablecoin offering, and I thought these were good directions for this company. And of course, the main draw to PayPal is that it's a very cheap stock. And today, this afternoon, it seems like all of the fuss is people being upset at PayPal because apparently. The words of the CEO have been modified, they've been skewed, and the media being what the media is, the CEO was making a long-term statement about how he's going to change PayPal for the better, and that statement has been taken out of context, and so you had a lot of people who were expecting something crazy today, but nothing crazy happened. Some of the things one could have expected is, for example, like a partnership with X for payments or anything like that. No, none of that happened. PayPal is just doing incremental innovation. I thought that was very interesting. I recommend watching this full video. I saw some clips on CNBC. I doubt they watched the whole thing. You have a 50-second clip just making entertainment, criticizing the CEO. The CEO is doing what needs to be done, which is incremental innovations, things like faster checkout, Face ID in order to check out, using Venmo, leveraging the 90 million customers that they have on Venmo. I thought one of their more interesting product was the purchase-based recommender systems because they have the data on their clients and on all of the places where they've bought before. And so, while historically recommender systems are based on browsing and you browsing different websites, they are actually able to create a recommender system based on purchases, based on what you've actually purchased, and recommend various things to their buyers. I think that's interesting. I'm curious as to where they're going to take this. I also want to say PayPal is looking more and more competitive against credit cards. If you look at the PayPal MasterCard, of course, they partner with a payments network. But if you look at the cashback MasterCard, 3% cashback with PayPal is actually it's excellent. It's quite outstanding. It's a lot. It's 50% better than kind of the best cards out there. And so the question is, are they going to draw more people into using PayPal thanks to that? I believe so. That could do the trick. They are back in growth mode, trying to maybe make less money, but focus on that growth. And so that was interesting to me. My disappointments is no discussion of PNPL, no discussion of crypto, no update on crypto. I hope they keep going in that direction, especially as we go through the halving. Small position, not adding to it, not selling it. Position is under 0.5% from me. So it's a small position, but nonetheless interesting. And the new CEO seems to have a good handle on the business. At least that was a compelling presentation in my view, but incremental, mostly incremental. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. I'm still very busy, so I have very little time to make videos right now. But remember, never financial advice, just entertainment. Appreciate your likes. I appreciate your subscribes. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.